Okay, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. I have an awesome guest on tonight. And this, I want to say young man, but he is young. He's younger than me, which is a good thing, right? But he played soccer at the premier college of soccer, University of Virginia. Um, Unfortunately, this poor guy's career was cut a little short due to some injuries, which we all face that challenge. But his team won the NCAA title his senior year. But how about this? They went on to win 4 out of 5 years the NCAA title. I call that a dynasty, right? But University of Virginia is big time soccer. But he's the founder of After We Play, right? It's a company that's actually dedicated to helping athletes bridge the gap between careers on and off the field, right? Welcome to the show, Scott Roussell.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here. Great to
Yeah,
be here, and what an
I'm
what an introduction.
yeah,
What an introduction.
I'm happy to have you. And that stinks. You got hurt, and then the team wins the national championship.
Yeah, the coulda, woulda, shoulda story, and it was just the sad thing was it was just when I was coming into my element. My first year I was playing. The history of Virginia soccer was playing with some really really good guys. In fact, three of my teammates, four actually, went and played in the World Cup, and Bruce Arena was our head coach, and he's still
Yeah,
coaching in the MLS. Um, and to be at that level and to really start contributing and to enjoy that and experience it. And for those competitive athletes who have done it most of their lives, that's what you play for,
yeah,
is to get to that level. And then honestly, it all just it went away. I mean,
yeah.
literally like that. We had maybe, we tried everything. We had another surgery and we went through rehab. And then I went back out onto the field and just realized I couldn't do it.
Wasn't gonna work.
Nah, no. So, and
No.
that was tough. And I think that, as we move into a little bit about what we're doing with After We Play, that plays a large role. What I took from that and kind of the
Yeah.
rabbit holes that I went into, that,
Yeah.
that's why we're doing what we're doing with that company. So,
Cool. Well, I got a ton of things to ask you, right? And we're going to go on and we're going to go off on all kinds of tangents. But before I start hitting you
yeah,
with a ton of questions,
sure.
can you just tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, hence my last name, Roussell, and very Cajun. Family is still all there, but my dad moved us to Dallas when I was very, very young, and loved sports. Grew up playing sports. Played pretty much through middle school, basketball, baseball, soccer, but soccer was truly my love. And when I got to high school, that's when I really committed to that sport. I don't know if for folks who are listening, North Texas, especially this is in the '80s, so we're
Yeah.
aging ourselves now, was unbelievable hotbed for for
Soccer.
soccer. Yeah, and my club team, we actually went on to win the McGuire Cup. We were the only Dallas team. It's a tournament based in Dallas where teams from all over the world come and play in, and we were the first American team actually to ever win it. So I played with some rock stars, and I actually rode. My best friend growing up is Jeff Agus. I think we've talked about that, and he was the number one recruited player in the country. So we had every coach in the nation coming to watch us play. And so I got a lot of exposure from that. And I was recruited to play at a lot of places. But when Bruce Arena calls you and your best friend's going to, and
Yeah.
there were three of us from Dallas that went to go play, and that's where it all started. And I
Yep.
thought I was on top of the world, and went and did that. And then we talked about the injury, had that unfortunately. And when I left, I really felt like something was missing because I don't think I could I played in the MLS, I don't know, but I was playing pretty good soccer with some really good players that all
Yeah.
did play at that level. But I went to New Jersey. My dad got me a job there right outside of Princeton. Played a little semi-pro ball with a team called the Eagles, I believe.
Yep.
Sean McGlynn, a former teammate, got me on there. And then I could play a game here or there, but I couldn't consistently play. And then got a job in Louisville, Kentucky. doing outside sales and been here ever since.
The
So
rest is history.
the rest is history. And
Yeah.
I've actually, I got my MBA. My ex-wife, I had been formerly married, have three wonderful kids. Uh, she's a doctor, and so she was going to medical school. I got my MBA, and that's when my entrepreneurial wheels really started kicking, which we can talk
Yeah.
about later. But that's kind of my life in a nutshell, from
Cool.
growing up in Dallas and loving the sport of soccer, playing it, and then coming to Louisville where I live now. So
Now you're a big guy, right?
I am about 6'2". My playing day 6'2", 190.
So
So yeah.
6'2", 190. How did all of the football teams not suck you up?
They did. And here's the thing. So what they do is they pull all the middle schools together who are
Okay.
going to go feed into a high school. And they came in and they did these tryouts where they got all the middle school kids. And this coach looked at me. I'll never forget, his name was Coach Matthews. And he looked at me and I said, I'm sorry, because I was a prime. I mean, I'd be middle linebacker right
Or
here,
or a
or
tight end.
yeah, a tight end, and that's it right there. I've got some good hands. And he looked at me and he said, he called me Rochelle. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go play soccer. And he said, you're the biggest fucking pussy I've ever seen in my life. And that's what I heard. So, I don't think it would have made any difference. I just was born with a body, unfortunately, where I was not very limber
Yeah.
and never worked. We didn't work on it back then,
Yeah.
and that's where we were, because of Texas and football. A lot of our fields were astroturf. So
Yeah.
I grew up playing on that turf, and that just beat my knees down. And that's what happened. Turns out when I got hurt, I was bone on bone, and we didn't have knee replacements back then, so there was nothing that they
Yeah.
could do. And I was maybe 21 when
Ugh,
I got that news. Yeah,
that's
and
horrible. That's
it was
horrible.
horrible. Yeah, it's
So
fine.
let's go way back in time,
Okay,
right?
doke.
And I like to start with all the I hate to say the word former, but we are, right? But recruiting. The
Yeah.
recruiting process today, Scott, like it's insane. It's not even about a recruiting process. It's who's getting paid the most, who's giving them the most. It's not about what's the athlete going to do for the school anymore. It's how
Yeah.
much is the school going to give the kid to come here? And it just becomes a competition. But if you go back to your days getting recruited out of high school to play soccer at one of the premier soccer schools in the country, what was that like? And how do you think it's different today compared to when you were getting recruited?
Well, I think I don't really know what it's like today, to be honest with you, but I know that I had some certain schools that I really wanted to go, and that were my priority. So to be honest with you, if you ever, you and I will date each other. There was a show called Family Ties, one of my
Yeah.
favorite shows going on.
Yeah.
Well, I was Alex P. Keaton, no
Okay.
joke, I was, and I wanted to go to Yale. And I wanted to go to the Ivy League, and I was Yale's number one recruit. And so, and that I paid it, went on a visit, saw, I think they played, yeah, they played, actually, it was the Yale Harvard football game was that weekend. So they brought me
Okay.
up at the right time, went there, watched that, went to a game. It was just, the atmosphere was amazing. The Ivy League just enticed me. That's what I wanted. And I'm a pretty smart guy, and they lowered the standards
For
for my
you.
SAT. Yes, and and so Bruce is calling, and Dave Saracen, who's always been on Bruce's assistant, was my assistant, and they'd be calling, and they said, "You coming?" And I said, "I'm waiting to hear from Yale." And they went to Cornell though, so they understood the Ivy League.
Yeah.
And so when I found out that, and it was a sad day when I couldn't get into Yale, I said, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go play soccer at the University of Virginia. And I called Bruce and told him, and he was like, all right, let's go.
Let's go.
And it was Jeff, myself, and my buddy Sam Bloom, who was a goalkeeper, and the three of us went together, and we all played club together. So it was a lot easier for us to go away so far to school. And you always have the family of the team environment,
Yeah.
but to have two of my best friends go together, it made it a lot
Oh, that
easier.
must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
So
So
how was that mentally for you for Yale to turn around and say, no, we don't want you?
it stunk. but I understood it, but it just didn't make any sense because
Yeah.
I was a book smart straight A kid. I just couldn't I couldn't and the thing that on the math and grammar on the SAT, whatever math and English, the English is what I did the worst on,
Yeah.
and I was one of the best writers
Yeah.
of all time. So it was really difficult
Yeah.
because that's where I really wanted to go. I was set
Right.
on it. But
And
let me tell you,
but now they're really in today's recruiting process, they're almost devaluing the SAT. Like nobody cares.
no, no, and we can get into NIL, which I really
Yeah.
don't want to, but I'm really in the people that I talk to now. When I was at this conference I just told you about in
Yeah.
Denver that deals with substance and athletes, the collegiate athletes. They're all talking about it, and it's something's going to happen sooner or later. We're not sure what shoe's going to drop, but something's got to change,
Oh
and
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they
But
got to
I
put
would
some
not want to be,
guardrails.
yeah, I would not want to be a collegiate coach right now.
No.
There's no,
It's look at Dabo. Dabo's getting
yeah,
hammered.
yeah,
He doesn't want to play the game with the portal, you know. So look at it's caught up to him,
yeah,
you know, and you feel bad for the guy. Like he's trying to put a great team on the field, but
yeah. But who would? Because honestly, I love when you go to my entrepreneurial days, and I love to build things,
yeah,
and that's what you get when you can bring someone in. And I remember Bruce told me when he goes, "There's one thing, Scott, you will take out of this relationship we have is you're going to be a better player when you leave here, and that much better of a person." And so you build that in someone to see them when they come in
yeah,
and to experience that 4 years. You don't have that anymore. You don't even get to know them. You're not vested emotionally. So
yeah,
how do you make that? How can you even get satisfaction out of that? I know you can because the money's good, but
yeah,
it would be difficult for me
yeah,
because
yeah,
I like those relationships. I thrive on
yeah,
interpersonal relationships. So
yeah.
yeah.
And it takes a couple of years to build them.
Oh, of
You know,
course it does.
you can't build them in a season.
No.
You know,
And for me it did because you deal with, when you're a coach, they call it because I love I still follow, English, professional soccer. And they talk about, the best thing for some coaches is being the man manager, how to deal with, not only the playing style of the player, but the what's up here.
yeah,
After we play, we call it the invisible game, the game that's being played in your head that nobody sees, and you have to be able to deal with those personalities. And it takes maybe a year or
yeah,
so just to understand how you can motivate and drive people. And that's
yeah,
gone. I mean, you don't have
yeah.
it. So
No,
yeah,
it's tough. You know,
yeah,
I coined a phrase a while back. I think I probably stole it from somebody. I don't know, but you know, I say athletes die twice. You know, when their playing days are over, they literally die. Their identity's dead of who they used to
yeah,
be, but they got to live with it. You know, and then in real life, somewhere along the line, we all leave the earth and we're done. But then we're
yeah,
done. You know, but there's so many athletes, Scott, that when their playing days are over, it's so hard to take that next step. You know, so you're and the challenge you had, I'm just gonna guess, is like your playing days weren't over, but your injuries said they were, you know, and that's got to be even harder. It's different when, okay, you play your 4 or 5 years, you're not going to the next level, your playing days are done. It's kind of you can kind of accept it, but when you get hurt and it's your career is over prematurely, that's devastating. You know,
yeah.
how did
It
you
is.
handle that?
Not very well.
Yeah,
And it's just a loss of identity, you know. And I had the opportunity because, there's such a strong brotherhood that we had, and I
yeah,
think all teams in college athletes or professional athletes have that bond. They say the one thing you hate leaving the most is the locker room,
the
right?
locker room. Yeah,
And yeah, and they came to me, my assistant coach at the time came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to just be a manager? We want you to be a manager." And I was like, "Fuck that." And
yeah,
I didn't, I wasn't thinking rationally because that would have given me the opportunity to travel, to still eat, because we had separate dining, and
yeah,
I still I could not. And I just said no. So what I did was I wallowed. I watched them win. I sat in my dorm room and went out and partied and drank myself to tears while they were
yeah,
out winning. My brothers were out winning a national championship, and it was
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
And I should have just sucked it up and said, you know what? it wasn't my time. And there's a reason why I'm not on the field. It's not because I wasn't good enough. It's because I can't physically play. So go
Yeah.
enjoy it with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. And I regret that, to be very honest with you, Jeff.
Mm.
I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the locker room, the bus rides, the plane rides, the hotel
Oh,
stays. You know,
yeah.
it's you can't. And here's another thing I try to talk to people about. Like, you have the traditional student who they walk along campus, do their thing, and have fun. And if I say to you, Scott, can you put it in writing, like in a paragraphical format, of what it feels like when you're out on the field playing? Can you describe that feeling?
There is nothing like it.
You,
I don't know how you can compare it to really anything. And it's not even that. It's almost in preparation. I loved the idea and the routine of just being in the locker room
yeah,
prior to a game, building yourself up, listening.
yeah,
You put your music on, you visualize yourself. I would always, I'm not taking this into my business world. I would always visualize myself playing before the game started.
yeah,
So I would see myself, doing things. And like when I go and give a presentation, I see myself actually doing that.
doing it. Yeah.
And then when you get out and when you hear, and I'm sure many of your guests have said this, when you hear the national anthem
Oh
and
yeah.
you're out there with your
My
brothers,
fingers start going.
it's incredible. And then there is a level of, there's a level of ego and to know that when we were playing, and again, I will say that I rode Jeff Aggis's coattails, but I was a good player, but we were number one in the country. I can't tell you how many weeks of the years that I played in the years that my class was there. And so you're going out, we're on a plane, and they're making the announcement. We have the number one Virginia Cavaliers on the plane, blah blah blah, and we go out, and everybody wanted our head,
Yeah,
these teams, in football or
yeah,
whatever it is, and everybody wanted us, and it was fun to have
yeah.
that, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and it gets you excited. Just to go back to your question, yeah, it gets you. It's
Yeah.
an amazing feeling.
You can't,
So
I say I can't explain it, but if you said, hey, do you know what that feels like? I'm like, yep. But try to explain it to somebody who's never done it, never been out there. You just can't
yeah,
explain it.
no, and that's what a lot of psychotherapy has done for me. Is you go back, and I can always say though, at least I did,
Yep.
and at least I know, and a lot of people don't. And I should be very thankful that I had
Yeah.
that opportunity. That I've been
Yeah.
given a lot of really. I've come across a lot of great people
Yeah.
and done a lot of cool things because of it. So
Is there any one moment in time when you were in Virginia that like stands out? It's like, wow, this was a special moment.
yeah, I'd say that it was my second year. It's crazy how Virginia does it. We don't have freshmen. We don't have freshmen.
Yeah.
It was my second year, my sophomore year. And we were in the NCAAs and we were playing Loyola, and it was freezing, and we were getting beat 1-0, and that's when Bruce came to me and said, it's time. And that was when I knew that I had, kind of gotten to that level. I didn't start the game, but I was the first one off the bench because of the impact he thought I might have had. And although we lost 1-0, and I didn't go in and score, but it was just knowing that I had made it to that level that I
Yeah.
wanted to be, and it was only going to get better after that. And to be frank with you, Jeff, that was the last game I ever played, not
Oh,
knowing it at the time. That was it.
oh
So
my God.
yeah,
It seems like
and
yesterday,
competitive.
right?
Yeah, it does,
Ugh,
without question. So
that's
that was it.
painful.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned before, you said the invisible game, as like it's our toughest opponent.
Yes.
What's that all about? Tell the audience, what is that? How did that come about? And get into the details of that.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I could probably take 2 hours, the full two
Yeah.
hours talking to you about this. But what I realized was when it took time, it took years. I had a little bit of an epiphany when I let's just say that alcohol and I don't have the best relationship.
Okay.
And I figured that out later in life. And I always try to trace back where did it start. And And I've been able to kind of piece that together. But I look at for athletes, we live off the adrenaline and we live off of, we're fueled by that, and we're fueled by, the ego that it all brings and all that. And then so I when I left the sport, and after my marriage, I got my MBA. And I minored in international relations and majored in international relations and minored in French. So what was I going to do with that? So long and short of it, I got into sales, and I was a pretty good salesman. But I knew that there was really something I wanted to do, and I think we always want to build things. We always want to thrive and win and compete. And so I started a couple companies that were really, really cool, and we did some really cool stuff with them. And that's where my adrenaline, that's where I was fueled with that. And then the last company, I had a little bit of an issue with some of my partners, and I was asked to leave, if you can put it kindly. And that's when kind of it all stopped. And that's when I think I really said, what am I doing and where am I going? And I call it the wilderness years. That's when I really, my use really started to pick up. And when I knew that I pretty much had to stop, I kind of looked back and said, man, I had just bulldozed everything in my life, my
Yeah.
family, my kids, my marriage, my jobs. And I said, and then I look back, and I'll try to be brief here.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was there, and I'm plugging this, and I don't know why. I saw the documentary on David Beckham, and it was a 3-part series. It was pretty amazing. And his teammate Gary Neville talked about how, those guys, and we too, we start playing when we're 6. And
Yeah.
and if you really have it in you, that's all you think about. That's all you want to do. And that's the way he was. And he built Beckham did an amazing career at a very young age. And then it just getting better and better and better. And he went from Man United to, Real Madrid, played for England, came to the Galaxy, tore up America with that, and then went
Made
back to
billions of
PS.
dollars.
Yeah, yeah, and then went back and did and played at PSG, and then he just left. And he said, and he and Posh are in this manor, in the English countryside, and I think he was there. The way the documentary said, it was like maybe 2 3 weeks, and he was on a plane to Miami because
Yeah.
he had to fuel himself with that. I didn't have that
Yeah.
fuel, and I said I had my own epiphany, and I said I did some homework, and I said, talk about former athletes, professional athletes, and substance, and it was huge. And then I said, what about at the collegiate level? And it was even bigger, and then it got
Oh yeah.
even deeper, and not only on the SUD side, but also in, let's say, eating disorders with female athletes. And then
Sure.
you've got, sadly, worst case scenario, suicide rates, which have actually in the last few years doubled with college athletes. And I said, why is this happening? And that's where I said I want to do something about it. And that's where we came up with the idea of After We Play. And at first, I viewed it as something like you mentioned, the die twice, because, when your career's over, that's when you say, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Who am I? What we did with this, I said, that's what I want to do. And I want to look at more of a way to help steer athletes in that direction of positivity. But then I said, maybe we need to start earlier. Maybe we need to start while they're actually in the
Playing.
process of playing,
Yeah.
so they can develop the tools that they need to cope with the ongoing anxieties and pressures and stress that come with the invisible game, the one being played up here that nobody sees except
Yeah.
the player themselves. And so that's what we're trying to do with After We Play, is the invisible game is a six module seminar in which we take the ideas and educate athletes and administrators and coaches on how to cope with the ongoing anxieties that are on the field, because there's a lot there.
Yep.
But man, you got life. Life gets life, and you got to deal with that.
Yeah.
And now with NIL, there's so much more now.
Yeah.
And then, at the competitive youth, you've got, to those helicopter parents out there, you've got that, you've got, you know, college, you're going away to school, you've got all this. How do you cope and deal with it? And that's a
Yeah.
very long answer to your question of what we're trying to do with the
Yeah.
invisible game and after we play is give them the tools to manage those things so they excel while they're playing. And then to your point, when they leave the field, they've got that there to deal with everything else.
Yeah.
So that's it in a
And then you got
nutshell.
social media on top of that,
Yeah.
right? To fuel
Yeah.
their fire. But you know,
Yeah.
it's when you look at it, Scott, the athletes, you know, let's face it, coaches are paid to do two things, recruit and win, right? That's
Mhm.
it. Now they have all these other things that they say, yeah, we'll bring these people in. They check the box, check the box, check the box. And when the person leaves, it's over. I mean, the speaker comes in, it's gone.
Yeah.
And they're not too concerned about tomorrow, other than go to practice and win, you know? But when you think about the kids that are freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors, their whole identity and no matter who they talk to, it's also the people that they're talking to are talking to them about their sport and their game.
Right.
There's nothing else they're really talking to them about. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, these kids, like you said, they're not prepared for when that's over. And then the people that used to talk to them stop talking to them. And then they're like, wait a minute, what about me? You were my friend last week, but now they're not playing anymore, so now they don't want to talk to them, and this identity is just gone,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, tons of athletes suffer from this, you know, and I think what you're doing is awesome that you're getting these kids ready for that moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because and that moment's coming. We just don't know when, but it's coming. And we
And
all
it's not
face
only,
it.
yeah, and it's not only coming. This is really the crux of it, though, Jeff, is, you know, we say after we play, and it was really meant to be, you know, when it's all over. But what I mean now by after we play is after the practice, after the game, after the season, because I remember I'd struggle. I'd leave a practice field, and I remember Bruce yelling at me, and I was kind of like, and I remember it took me into the evening, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, oh man, and then I got class, and I got this and that.
Yeah.
So this is almost more so, you know, when we went, you know, when you played, you know, we get in the mail. This is back in the 80s, a a workout, a 10-week workout,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and what we're doing. And so you have that, but what we're doing with after we play in the invisible game, that is, you know, the conditioning program from Bruce was from here down, you know,
Yeah.
from your neck down. What we're doing, it's conditioning program for up
Neck up.
here. So you're yeah, so neck up. And that's where we want to work hand in hand with the sports psychology departments, you know, at the collegiate level, at the professional level, and even
Yeah.
start introducing it at the competitive youth level because you can't start too early, especially if that's what you want to do for the rest, you know,
Yeah.
for the next 4, 6, 10 years. So
Yep. So,
yeah,
so how are you guys helping these athletes bridge that gap between, you know, their playing days, or maybe just at the end of the day, like you said, your coach yelled at you, you carry it into the night. You know,
yeah,
sometimes you carry it for a week, you know, but or you have a bad game, you carry that until the next game, you know. Like
yeah.
how are you helping the athletes bridge that gap to the next step?
Well, what we're doing is so it's twofold, and that's a great question. Is we have the Invisible Game course seminar, which is 6 sessions, and those will be videotaped, and those will be then sent and sold and distributed to the athlete or to the team. And then on top of that, we have a website which we're in the process of delivering, coming to a computer near you in
Yeah.
fourth quarter of this year. That's going to be a peer support network where
Mm,
people can go on and actually communicate with one another about what they're experiencing, you know, talking about it, asking for ideas,
that's pretty cool.
suggesting topics. And on top of that, we'll have speaker engagements where we'll have former athletes who have done it right, those who have done it wrong, talk about their experience. So you can just sit in I call it a sanctuary where they can just go and decompress and
Yeah.
chill because you know this, there's still a massive stigma in the world of an athlete saying that they're struggling and asking for help.
Oh yeah.
So that's where you come into after we play our community, and you don't have to worry about that because we're all the same. There's no judgment, and we're just asking and seeking for help.
Yeah,
And we've got an extensive resource library. We've got pretty much everything that you need. And also, it's not too early. I'm learning that there's such a thing as self-care, and so it's not too young to start even looking at, of course, on the diet side, they're going to get that in their athletic programs and all that departments. But our athletes looking at meditation and things of that as well. So we'll have a section geared towards that where they can also go and try to use that as a tool. So it's a comprehensive website community where people can come and seek help and just get away and
that's
listen to people
awesome.
who've been through it before. Yeah,
So can we drive that for a minute? You
sure.
talked about, and if we go back to our playing days,
Right.
the mental side of things, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean the mental toughness of the sport of getting beat up and remembering your plays and that kind of stuff. It's like if you're like some of these kids that go, their girlfriend just dumped them last week, and they're carrying that. They can't think straight. They're in the game trying. Their whole mental state's a mess. Or maybe their parents are breaking up. Or maybe somebody died in their family. There's all kinds of things going on, and they're not telling anybody. They're not talking about it. And the fear these kids have sometimes is like opening their mouth to talk to somebody about their problems. They're afraid that the coaches might say, "Well, he's having a rough time mentally. Maybe we don't put him in the game." You know?
Right.
So how are you helping the kids with that? Like getting them to like say it's okay to talk about it.
That's great because so and you literally, I can tell you, you did not walk me into this question.
No.
For folks out there, you did not. So when you look at our curriculum for the invisible game, and I've got it right here, here are the titles of our courses: the game within, the weight you carry, letting it go, finding stillness in the storm, playing with purpose, and then something bigger than me. So what we're doing is we're dealing with when I go back to, and I have to stress, the addiction that I have is, that was the solution, my alcohol, right? I was running away from escaping from something. What I was
Yeah.
running away from was everything up here,
Yeah.
all the resentments and the fears. And that's what every college kid's going to go through, even if you're a
Yeah.
rock star,
Yeah.
as a player. And what we're doing is giving them the tools to deal with that question you just said. How do I go with my girlfriend just breaking up with me? I just got benched,
Yeah.
and mom
Or I
and dad
flunked a
aren't sending me.
test.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
flunked the test. Yeah, and that's what this is based
Yeah.
on. And
Yeah.
so it's something that you can hopefully, or these kids can hopefully take and use for the rest of their lives
That is
if
so
we do it
awesome.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the kids don't, Scott, they don't know where to go. And
no,
they're just
yeah,
afraid to ask,
yeah.
you know?
And here's the thing: is because we're brothers in arms with the sports psychology departments. You need to be,
Yeah.
but and they're there. I mean, some of these programs have huge staffs, but some of these players are just afraid to
Yeah.
bring it out into the open,
Yeah.
and maybe even with their teammates, you know. And and a lot of it is not about. I'll tell you what affected me in my life affected me on the field.
Yeah. Of course.
Total
Without a
direct
doubt.
relationship. And that's what, and that's what we're trying to do here is to bring both worlds, the playing world and the life world, bring them together where there's
Yeah.
harmony, hopefully harmony.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect by any
No.
means, but guess
No.
what? We're gonna make it. I always talk about, you don't want to be too high and you
Yeah.
don't want to be too low. You want to be right
Right in the
there. And
middle.
that's what we're trying to do is build. My favorite word is balance.
Mm.
Try to find balance. And that's what we're looking for here. That's the goal. If we can find balance in these athletes, then we're doing our job.
Yeah.
So,
And you mentioned something before that I wrote down to make sure I bring it back. You said
yeah,
playing with purpose.
yes.
Can you talk about that? That's one of the things in your curriculum there about playing with purpose. Like how do you drive that?
Yeah, it's just a matter of and I'll tell you what we have here is that it says like a this is the description of the playing with purpose. Like a ship in the night, athletes need a lighthouse to guide their journey in and out of sport. Explore and understand your why, the energy that drives you, that gives you meaning to use as the guide through the charted and uncharted waters you face as an athlete. It means how are we really dealing with, the highs and the lows and finding that balance? Because you know, what we do on the field, it doesn't directly relate to what we do off the field, although there
Right.
is some synergy there because people, I remember, you have a good game and you're the guy at the party that everybody wants
Oh
to
yeah,
buy a
everybody
beer
wants to
for and all
talk to.
this.
Yep.
But honestly, if you have consistency and balance, then and you're playing with purpose, you're playing with a steady focus, then that's what carries you through the highs and the lows, if that makes sense.
Yeah, without a
Yeah,
doubt. So in your program, I did some homework,
sure.
looking
Thank you.
up
I
at
appreciate
finding your
that.
stuff,
Yeah,
right? And you
yeah.
have an assessment, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
can you talk about the assessment and how that actually helps the athletes uncover what the next step might be?
Well, the whole thing is you got to be honest with yourself. And so what I wanted to do, this conference that I went to, we had at it was this wonderful, it's called the Apple course, and not based on the company, but they had 32 Division II schools there. And what they're trying to do is teach the students and pair them with the coaches and the trainers to build a process within the athletic department that will really look to moderate. Not you don't have to be abstinent. It's just to moderate the use of alcohol, especially during the season. And what I wanted to do, if I had my way, and I didn't, not this way, was just to have these questions, just have them on the board that would just all 15 replay over
Yeah.
and over. And the kids are looking at it and they're saying, and what we tell people is if you answered yes to four of those, then you might want to come pay us a visit and look at what we have to offer. And that's what it is. It is truly a self-assessment.
Yeah.
Look at yourself and understand and be honest with yourself. That's the key. If you can't be honest with yourself, then
Yeah.
we probably can't help you. But then that's the way we say. And what we're also using that as a way to get people to visit the site. And
Yeah.
that's going to be kind of, if you look at our landing page, come take this assessment, learn where you are in your own mind, and see if you might want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. Yeah.
So this whole program, this whole company, and this might sound kind of crazy, maybe you'd think I'm nuts, is built from your life experience, more or less. What you've gone through, what you've accomplished, what you've overcome, right? And now you've built this company and you say, hey, let's go back and impact the kids who might be having the problems you've had and show
Yeah.
them how to guide them, like use the lighthouse, guide them on how to get through it and get past it.
Yeah. Because if you, yes, because you do not, I call them the wilderness years. You do not want to go through my wilderness years. And I don't want anybody to have to go through that because if I was prepared, and it had nothing to do with my mom and dad. I came from a great family, a
Yeah,
wonderful family, but there were just some insecurities inside of me and a lot of fears that were never addressed, and I didn't know how to deal with them. And then this is allowing for those to at least take a look at what some of their issues might be and how do we address it,
yeah,
and or how do they address it. And that's exactly right. And I look at this is my story. This is the
yeah,
impetus for why I did this. And this is the first venture I've ever done where there's not a dollar sign at the end of it. Honestly, this is the first time I've looked at an opportunity, and I'm saying if we can touch a couple kids, or even professional athletes for that matter,
yeah.
they're not they're
They're not immune to it.
they
Yeah,
face this too.
yeah,
Then we're doing the right thing.
yeah,
And yeah, and I think we have a broad enough of an audience that once we get some traction and we get, we're looking for some ambassadors, i.e., former professional athletes that can really relate to what they experience, and they know what it's an emptiness and that loneliness, that emptiness that you feel, that others feel. It's hard and
yeah.
it's painful. And if we can get them to say, "Hey, I could have used this," then that's what we
Huge.
need.
It's
Yeah,
huge.
exactly.
So you think about your life. Let's talk about the path that you didn't choose. It was given to you, meaning if maybe if you never got injured, maybe this never happened. Maybe
Right.
maybe this never happens. You know what I mean? That whole injury is the cause and the effect of what's going on now,
Yeah.
which it maybe took a little while to get there, but think about where it's going to go and the impact you could make and the kids let's say for lack of better words, you're going to save, right? And you might save some lives while you're at it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. And you're right. And I haven't looked at it that deeply, but to your point, yes, because I still look back and say I still struggle with I still get angry, but there's a reason for everything. I've learned
Yeah,
that now and in my years
yeah,
of recovery that there's a reason for everything.
yeah.
And you might just be right on the point there.
And there's
You really
not that
might.
many people,
Yeah.
Scott, that have the courage that you have to come out here in the public and say, here's all my mistakes. Here's the things I've done wrong. Here's what I've learned from it. Here's what we're going to do to impact so many other kids, men or women, doesn't matter, to make sure it doesn't happen to them. Most
Yeah.
guys would just like check the box, cover it up, don't talk about it, and say, move on.
No, no, yeah. The one thing I have developed in recent years is a tremendous level of humility, and that's carried me through all this because I mean it is what it is, and those who I played with know that I was a good player. Those who have seen some of the wreckage know why that happened, and now it's like, hey, what can we do about it?
Yeah.
And let's go back and try to make a difference. And that's what we're doing here. And I have an incredible team on board with me that are trying to put this to and we're early. I mean, you're getting me right at the right time because we're really just now starting to bring this out and
Yeah.
in using the tools that we
Yeah.
can to get some branding. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So yeah, you talk about 10x your ex-athlete. Drive that one a little deeper.
that 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 is the question that you really don't want to ask because I that is my branding guy. That's his idea, and it's based on a sci-fi. If you ever saw Ender's Game, do you know the
No,
movie Ender's Game?
no,
I don't know if you. Okay,
no.
it's a sci-fi movie that Harrison Ford stars in, and it's about how what we're doing with 10x, and this is where we really haven't we have it on the back of the one pager and also
Yeah.
on the website is we haven't brought it to life yet. And the idea that is really the point of after we play that we're going to focus on the life after sport. That is
Hmm.
truly, the invisible game is really geared towards while we're playing to prepare us for life after, truly life after. And 10x is what we're going to do with that. So I honestly cannot speak as well and fluently on that as I'd
Yeah.
like to.
It's coming.
That is that is work in process.
All
Thank you.
right.
That is work in process. But I tell you what, my branding guy, Nick Stouffer, that's his baby. He's going to
Yeah.
say, he probably got to you and said, Jeff, ask him that question.
So,
Because, yeah,
but in your invisible game, you have six
yes,
sessions, right?
right.
Which one do you think is going to resonate the most with the athletes? Does anyone kind of jump out and say, you know what, this one's probably going to be the most powerful piece?
I like the one that's right in the middle called number three, letting it go,
Mm,
because that truly is the core. It's about how do we leave either a bad experience, a bad game, a bad argument with a player or a girlfriend or a bad grade. How do we deal with that? Hand it off over to somebody else and then move on. And because and a lot of athletes can, a lot of athletes, a lot of that stuff just brushes off and they move on. Most of us don't. And that's I think every one of not to heavily promote this, but I think every one of these sessions does a great job in building a foundation that continues to carry, and you really are learning as you experience the six modules. And that's when it comes to something bigger than me. It's like, what we've done while we play is it's been pretty cool. But now there's something out there that I have done that I can now grow from and take into my life outside of
yeah.
sport. And that's kind of that's how it ends. So
You know, that, I mean, that let it go today is got to be so much harder than when we were playing. Let me tell you why I think. It's
yes.
because the iPhone, people are recording, the people are at the game recording your mistakes and playing it all over the place. You
Yeah.
got all the different websites. You got the internet. You got ESPN, you got all these sports channels that are constantly replaying and replaying and replaying, and this stuff lives forever out there. You just look up, you type in the guy's name, and the good and the bad pop up. Whereas years ago when we were playing, like there was nowhere to find the mistakes. They just disappeared.
No, no, and we didn't have I mean the ACC network. We probably would have gone on TV every week. I
Yeah,
think maybe we might have gotten on ESPN once a season, if even that.
right.
And yeah, and that's it. And so that is that is honestly, it's an art that if you can find a way to take the negative things that happen and to some degree turn them into a positive, and find a way to move off of it, that you can say, all right, I'm really thinking about the next time I step on the field, and I'm not going to take
Yeah,
that baggage from the last practice or game or whatever it might be,
yeah.
and resonate on it, because I mean that can take you down a rabbit hole that you don't
Oh,
want to go, for sure.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Without it, you can literally lose sleep,
yeah.
or lose a lot more. Um, so this program is fairly new, right?
It's yeah, it's been in my mind now for coming up almost on a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
But we now actually have it, as you saw, we have a site, although
Yep.
it's not functional. We now we're going to the next phase, is literally in the next week or two, is to start putting content into the site. I'm working with a wonderful woman. Her name is Lori Freeman. She is my lead sports psychologist, and
Okay.
she's taking the curriculum and really putting meat to the program. And then we'll start filming and videoing in December, and then we'll actually start uh, pushing the Invisible Game for consumption in late December. And the website, we want people to visit the site, understand what we're about, and
Yeah.
then we'll start throwing blogs and snippets out to get people excited about it.
Right.
And that's where we'll use social
Okay.
media as a positive platform
S-
to get
ha-
the word out to the right people.
and
Yeah.
any feedback from people yet? Have you run any tests with any athletes yet?
Well, I will say that we have spoken to some folks in GM positions and some professional ranks, and
Okay.
the idea is well received. I talked to some folks that when players actually retire or leave, they give them a binder about this big and say, call us if you need us, be on your way.
Good luck. Yeah.
These people are not, good luck. Yeah, these people are not prepared. And then, I had some good conversations at the NCAA level in terms of how can we come in and work with, because what I did here, Jeff, at this last session was a buzzword is mental health,
Yeah.
because that is, and when you look at, I've got these stats here that the NCAA um, did a survey, and it was 2023. And just to kind of give you a little idea, these are questions that were asked, and anonymous feedback felt overwhelmed by all you had to do. And it was either endorsed constantly or mostly every day. 32% of collegiate athletes experienced sleep difficulties, 25%. Felt overwhelming anxiety. This is constantly or most every day, 20%. So this is happening more and more and
Yeah.
more. And when we can come in and give a very cost-effective education that will partner with the sports psychology departments, we're
Yeah.
not trying to replace anybody, then we're looking to, maybe we can come in and actually find a way to do speaking engagements either at the NCAA level or at an athletic department level or something of that nature. So we'll have the website and the community and the peer support there. We'll have the curriculum with the Invisible Game that we can market to individuals
Yeah.
or to teams, or then go to institutions themselves. So that's how we're trying to get the word out.
Cool.
Yeah.
So everybody measures success differently, right? If you think about sports, you got stats, the scoreboard, you got all kinds of benchmarks. How do you think you guys are gonna measure your success in this field doing what you're doing? Is there something that like, hey, if we can do this or that or whatever, that's gonna be our success point?
That's a great question. And you know, the answer is, I don't know if there is an answer, because the only way that we can really literally gauge success you can have a moral victory if you do speak to a couple athletes that actually use it and it works. That to me, one, two, three athletes, them finding um, comfort in what we're doing is important. But I think it's going to just take time. This is not something probably we're going to be able to roll out and just take the world by storm,
Yeah.
in a night. But it's going to be, can we grow the community and to see the traction that we get in the community, to see if we can get also buy-in from former athletes that said, man, I wish I had this when I was playing. And that's, having that
Yeah.
testimonial, and that's what we're looking for. If you went to the site, you saw we're looking for testimonials to
Yeah.
say, yeah, this I could have used. And if we can bring those folks on board, then there's really no way we can fail. If we're helping one or two or three people, then that's what it's all about. The initial overhead and investment's been nominal. And if we can get the word out and grow through just traction and word of mouth, and then
Yeah.
success here and there, then it's all going to work. But
Yeah.
I'm not. The one thing I do have is I have very realistic expectations, and I don't. This is the one thing, and you'll appreciate this as a businessman, is I don't have investors now that I have to answer to like I did in my previous
Yeah.
my previous
Yeah.
engagements, and that's hard when I'm spending most of my time trying to raise money or deal with a board of directors. I don't have that here. So I can really focus on what our true message is. And
Yeah.
I want to get out, I'd love to get out on a TED stage. I'd love to get out and just speak. That's my strength, is communicating how
Yeah.
this affected me and how we want to try to help people. And if I can do that, then we're going to be in a good position.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, you mentioned community a couple times, right?
yeah.
You know, and sometimes the communities that are out there, they're like, they want to help, but they don't know how or where to start. So if we have people from multiple athletic communities or just traditional, communities, how can they help? How can they get involved to make this message, this mission, grow and impact other people?
That great question. By sharing their experiences with others that are on the site, because there's so many different issues that people are going through and running through, and then by saying that this worked for them, by telling other folks, telling their teammates, telling everyone they can, and bringing people to the table. But that's the basis. When I envisioned this, I really wanted to have a peer support. I wanted to be able to have a place. I use the word sanctuary. I just
Yeah,
like that word, where people can go and they can vent and share their frustration and know that somebody else is going through it too. And we're trying to formulate the network so that you can actually, you've got your circles in terms of if you have something in common with somebody,
yeah,
the circle gets bigger, and that I can maybe steer my question towards that
yeah,
person, and try to way to just do it, because you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to be able to talk to somebody and solve your problems. I've heard about that. That's what I've learned in recovery. I can tell you that over and over,
yeah,
is just talking to someone who's been through it. They can tell you that it's okay. This too shall pass, and this is how I dealt with it.
yeah.
And that's
You know,
how we start building that network. And then we have the resources of the speaker engagements, people telling their stories, and other resources. I mean, we're going to share um, tons of podcasts, websites where they can go and learn more and
yeah.
escape and get the answers.
I'm just sitting here thinking, and maybe I'm just completely out of whack here, but you know, like AA, they have the meetings,
Mhm.
right? All these the drug addiction place, they have meeting, like you have meeting. Like, why can't there be athletic meetings? Like, well, hey, you know what? We all get together at this location and come and share our pains, our miseries, our craziness that we're having a hard time dealing with.
After we play, baby. And that is no, and so if you can tell by now, that's really where this idea came from.
But
Was
let's have
my
a location. Maybe have a after we play in every city, and athletes can physically come to it, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean the only positive thing I think that came out of COVID was the invention of Zoom.
Zoom.
You and I are halfway across the country and we're
Yeah.
meeting here too. I go to probably two AA meetings a day, and I do it, and I'm actually going to London next week because I'm part of a Zoom meeting that is global. And for 2 years, we have been communicating, and just like I'm communicating to you, you're in that square that it looks like you're right there next to me.
Yep.
And I'm going to go and meet these people for the first time in person and give them a big hug.
Yeah.
And that's why that is the essence of why I thought having peer support, because of what I've learned in those rooms, transpires to anywhere. You don't have to be an alcoholic to see that this method of communication and therapy works. And therapy
Right.
is a strong word.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you need to use it in that
Yeah.
context,
Why
but
not?
anything that can help somebody get through the trials and traumas that they're going through in life. Because one of my favorite terms is life gets lifey. And when you talk about a college or professional athlete, they're being pulled in how many
Oh my
directions? It's
God.
crazy. So how can they just decompress for a short period of time, get their
Yeah.
feet back on the ground, and then go back out and live their life? And
Yeah.
that's what we're, easier said than done, but that's what we're trying to do
Yeah.
with our community. And
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of work to be done, but I think
Yeah.
we're starting off on the right foundation. We can only, we make changes as we need to, and
Yeah.
that's how it's gonna evolve.
Yeah.
And what works, we'll keep it. If what doesn't, we'll remove. So
Yeah.
trial
Well,
and error.
you
Yeah,
you said the word before, go give him a hug.
yeah,
There's a big difference between me and you chatting on the screen and me and you being in person and talking and getting kind of emotionally connected. And then when we're all done, we're having a hug.
yeah.
You can, like, when you're hugging somebody, you feel the energy coming through them and you give it to them, right? That's
Right.
why, like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, well, with your program, you can have all these virtual things that everybody can log into from like the moon if they need to. But think about if every city had a spot that they could physically go to and meet people, shake their hand, tell their story, vent or hug.
Yeah.
That would be
Well, I love
sick.
that. Yeah, and it also took AA 95 years for
Well,
them to
but
get to
we
that
don't
point.
we don't need to take 95 years. Let's do it
Yeah,
now, you
yeah, no, I
know?
love it. But I mean, could you imagine that we got to the point where we could evolve to that? Of course. And maybe it's just in major markets where you have, very strong sports communities, because, this is not just geared to soccer or geared to football. This is geared to
All
everybody that
sports.
has any desire to play
Yeah,
a competitive sport,
right.
has played, are playing, and even those stakeholders involved. I mean, the parents are a big part of this too.
Of
And
course.
if they can see, and we're going to try to steer a curriculum of the invisible game towards that piece
Yeah.
itself. And it's amazing how that hopefully can help.
Yeah.
And, maybe it might be we start and we have this wonderful community and we say, all right, we're going to have, quarterly meetings in some city where we're all going to get together and do that
I'll
hug.
come. I'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
Well,
definitely if you want to open up a chapter out here, New
yeah.
Jersey, New York City area, I will help you lead it,
Yeah, I love it, and I'll
you
take you
know?
up on it. But I mean, it's even fun to think about that, and
Yeah.
and could we get there? I hope so. But baby steps, as they say, and that's what we're we're starting to do right now, and I'm excited about it. This is the first time in a long time that actually, and I think people in my life, family, friends, have seen this spark in me that I had lost for a long period of
Yeah.
time, and it's good to have it back, and I'm excited about that.
Oh yeah. It feels great to have that focused energy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It
You know?
does.
But I want to talk about something for a second. You said before, you mentioned about some of the problems that athletes have. You talked about sleep deprivation, right?
Yeah.
And I have that problem, right? And anytime I speak to an athlete, I talk about I wake up 6, 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 times a night, right? And not just because I'm getting older, right?
I was going to
But
say you're not running to the
no,
bathroom.
no, that might happen, but many times I'm waking up with the post-traumatic stress of oversleeping. Remember those days? Like you
Yeah.
had a 5 a.m. workout, 5 a.m. practice, 6 a.m. and the fear that the coaches put in your head about being late and what they physically did to you if you were. Now, like today, these coaches will get fired and maybe go to jail. But
Yeah.
the post-traumatic stress, like I wake up and I look at the clock and I have an alarm set that's never gone off. Because I wake up
Yeah,
and I'm always waking and I never have to hit the alarm. I never use the alarm. I always wake up before the alarm. And many times, like, you know what, I got 20 more minutes till the alarm's supposed to go off. Just get up.
yeah,
And I talked to some other people and they're like, I have that same problem. So if the magnitude of the pressure to be on time is so strong, how do you get past it? Right? How do you evolve through it? And it's just post-traumatic stress.
yeah. When you go to sleep, that's what I've learned in my program later in life is that you find a way to live life, and that's what we're trying to do with the invisible game. So you go to bed, and when you go to bed with a clear head on your pillow,
Yeah.
and that's almost impossible for any 18 to 22-year-old kid. But the question is, how can we mitigate or minimize those issues? I mean, I still have dreams. I don't know if you do. I still have dreams, and I'm playing, and I
Oh
can't
yeah.
get to practice on time, and
Oh yeah.
and I look in my locker, and
It's
all my
empty.
gear's gone.
I same
Yeah,
one. I
and
have
it's like,
same
yeah,
ones.
yeah,
Or
and, and
I have this one. Check this. Is I'm on the field, right? And
yeah,
it's time for me to go in and I can't find my helmet. Right? I have that
exactly.
one. And
Yeah,
the other one,
yeah,
this is another
yeah,
punctuality, is I show up to practice and it's over and I missed it. And I'm
yeah.
like, where is everybody?
Yeah,
Oh my
no,
God.
that's it. It's like first day of preseason,
Yeah.
and you can't find your shoes or
Yeah.
anything to get out there and play. But it's funny, and you tell me what this. This is a question I'm gonna ask you. So I had a dream the other night, probably 2 nights ago, where I actually was playing. I was playing soccer, but I was in street clothes, and I was playing against some young kid, and I actually was playing. I've never really had a dream where I was playing well. You either, that dream where you can't kick the
Yeah.
ball or you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
I actually was playing like I was Pele. And the question is, why? Is there something in my life now that I feel so good internally about that I can go out in my dream and actually
Yeah.
relive an athletic experience and
Yeah.
excel in it? Because I never,
I
when I
know
was
exactly
playing, I
what the
never had
answer
those
is.
dreams.
I know
Yeah, tell me,
exactly.
what is it?
It,
Yeah,
it's because of what you're accomplishing now
yeah,
is so powerful, it's so
yeah,
meaningful, and so important to you that now you're feeling that with your identity that was stricken from you forever
yeah.
long ago is given back to you.
Yeah, it felt good though.
Oh
I
yeah.
woke up and it was kind of like, man,
Look,
oh
hey,
man.
I'm pretty good. Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
So where do you see after we play going in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Like, what's the vision looking
yeah.
like?
Great question. So what we want to do now, the initial curriculum, that's launching us is the invisible game, which basically the way that Lori and I are creating this is that it's going to work at the three most important stages of the athlete at competitive youth, collegiate, and also professional. So this can work for all three of those factors. So that gets us into a core, I mean, the core group of our target audience, the competitive athlete. Um, what we hope there is that that'll generate revenue, that'll get interest in the idea, and then we'll bring people to the site. And then word of mouth through former athletes, through experience, through athletic departments, through this and that, we'll start building the community. Once we have the community and we're doing well there, then we will take certain niches and segments and create another invisible game segment. Like, for example, I'm going to London next week, and one of my friends who I'm meeting with, she actually works out of Wembley Stadium. That's where England plays
Yeah.
they play their international games. And right now over in England, you still have that issue where these kids are focusing on what do they want to do in life. They want to be a professional soccer player, right? Well, that's few and far between. So she says there needs to be some level of a program to help these kids and their parents and families deal with the potential loss of not getting that done. So can we take the core of the invisible game and move it into certain niches? Maybe it's team sport versus individual sport. Maybe it's, helicopter parents. Maybe it's whatever it might be. We'll continue to add content to the curriculum to build the idea that we are the 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 one-stop shop to help strengthen and build mental awareness, mental health, and allow for our clients to excel um, in life through the challenge of sport.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to be. And this is not, you know, get in, win at it, and then exit. This is something that I want to be able to pass on. I want this to hopefully, if it's successful, find a way to get legs and really get
Yeah.
to a global level, because we can really pair this curriculum to specific sports, specific niches, and things of that nature. Where I think the old cliche, "Sky's the limit." I
Yeah.
hope that's what we can realize.
I'll
So
tell you what I'm sitting here listening and thinking, this might just be a stupid question, but this is not just for the current and most recently ended their career athletes. This could be for people our age too that are still dealing with the stuff.
yeah, no, without question. If you are, and it might be that you've got a parent of a child, and the parent was a player living vicariously through their kid, and they
Yeah.
say, you know what, this might work for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we can even spin it. We can spin it. I think for me, it was the fact that I was an athlete, and this is what I experienced. This is the trauma I went through. I think there are also various other industries in which we could take this curriculum and use it. So I mean,
Yeah.
right now we have to focus on what our core goal is, and that's to at least be successful in the world of sport and try to
Yeah.
help those that need it. And then if we have to worry about that, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And I
My
I
God,
hope
yeah.
we do.
So those that are listening probably say, "Hey, this is so cool." How can they find you? How can they
They
find this program?
they can. I don't know when this is going to air, but you can go to www.afterweplay.com. Go in there, take a look. We're still developing and building content, but you can get your name and your email in there, and we will communicate with you as we get closer to launching the Invisible Game. And then hopefully we will just continue to. We're looking to do a podcast too, so I'd like to have you on that
Cool.
as well,
Let's do it.
if you don't mind. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to find ways in which we can get the word out into the community, and get former athletes, especially that have experienced some of the things that I did, to get them involved and say, hey, this is going to work, and this can work.
That's awesome. So you got a lot of things going on, right? You've accomplished a
Yes.
lot of stuff. You've overcome a ton of stuff. You've probably, for lack of better words, annoyed some people in your life, but you've also built some tremendous relationships in your life.
Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh boy. Man, oh man. It's like the Jerry Maguire question when
Yeah.
he says,
Yeah.
he gives him the contract and he goes, "Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
make me cry. Don't make
Yeah.
me cry." I don't know. And that is a great question. I'll tell you what, for me right now, and I say this and I'm emotional about it, is I am rebuilding relationships through what I have done, especially with my three kids. And I want to be the father that they can go to talk about when life gets lifey. I was absent for a long time. I was there physically, but I really wasn't in a lot of ways. And I also believe too, I don't know if you've heard this from any of your guests. I always believe that the nice guy can win. And you see all these guys that are just competitive assholes. I wasn't that way. I could lose. I was gracious in loss, and I was gracious in victory. And I want to be remembered as somebody who maybe did some good things and treated people the right way, and in turn, maybe changed some lives. But I'm starting. I've literally in the last 3 years restarted my life, and I'm excited about that because I think there's so much opportunity, and I'm not sure how After We Play is gonna how it's gonna be taken. But I'm gonna do everything I can in my power to make sure that at least it gets an opportunity, a chance to try to make a difference. And all I want to do is just repair those bridges that were burned, and do some good things with a lot of people. And I think if you do that, then in life it'll come back to you. And I hope it does. So
Uh, it definitely will. It definitely will. Well, Scott, we talked about a ton of stuff. We went back to your college days, after college, the business you're building, the stresses you had to overcome, the impact you're making. Is there anything we haven't touched on you think we should hit before we wrap it up?
honestly, no. I mean, you are, and I told you this, folks, that I think you do one of the best jobs in really doing your homework and asking the right questions and making people like me feel really comfortable in my seat. And you did a heck of a job tonight. And I
Oh, I
hope
appreciate
I
that.
hope I hope I was able to get my message across and let people know what's going on in my life. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's it's
Yeah,
it's my pleasure. I mean, get the message across, man. You got one hell of a message.
thank you.
you know,
Thank you.
and you haven't even really started yet. And I can't even, I shouldn't say I can't imagine. I can imagine where this is going, and I'm excited for it. And I'm telling you, I I know I'm kind of talking out of turn here, but I can only imagine there will definitely be physical locations for this business that you're having in every major city or who knows what, where people can congregate together and talk in person, share experiences, impact each other's lives, and give each other a hug.
I love it. That needs to be our motto. You'll try to give each other after we play. Let's after we play, let's give each other a hug. After we play, dot dot dot.
That's
Let's
it.
give each
Give
other
each
a hug.
other a hug. There's your
Yeah.
tagline right there.
Yeah.
That's it.
All
Well,
right.
Scott,
Give me
it's
credit.
been awesome having you. And I can't wait to see what you accomplish in the next couple of weeks and months. And
Thanks.
let's stay in touch, and I'll keep watching.
Absolutely. I love your show and thank you for having me.
You got it.
Thanks.
As I always say, everybody, stay strong.
Stay strong.